Welcome to the Dome Discussions Podcast. Your top source for all things New Orleans Saints. Powered by four voices who live and breathe black and gold. Touchdown! Every hit, every play.
Welcome to the NFL.
Every moment. We've got it covered.
Let's go! Let's go! Go!
What's going on, Who Dat Nation? Appreciate everybody tuning in to the Dome Discussions Podcast, part of Be in the Know Network. I'm Kyle Besson with Athlon Sports and Canal Street Chronicles.
I'm Nick Jennings with Canal Street Chronicles.
I'm Caleb Yacarino with Canal Street Chronicles.
Drew Collings with Who Dat Dish.
All right, and to get into it, the big news of the week so far for the Saints is Tyler Shough has officially signed his contract. It's a fully guaranteed 4-year deal worth $10.795 million. And it is he's the last of the second-round picks to get his fully guaranteed contract. This is big news for the Saints. They will officially have him available and ready for training camp. What are you guys excited for with this contract? Does it say anything specifically? What are you guys looking for?
Yeah, like you said, $10.8 million contract, fully guaranteed. I think he deserved it based on the current market for second rounders, but it's also worth noting that the contract also includes an annual roster bonus structure, which means Shough will receive the majority of his compensation each year during the first week of training camp, which no other non-first round pick has. But now that he does have that fully guaranteed deal, I have seen fans claiming that since Shough did get that, they think that it means that he is the starter, and that's just not the case. New Orleans Football Network's Nick Underhill actually made a great point regarding that claim. He said that the difference is less than 10% of his total contract, and drafting him with the 40th pick was more of a lean toward him starting than giving him a little more money in year 4. So he's still going to have to earn it. But straying off the contract talk for just a second, I just wanted to go over some quotes that I've heard from Shough recently when it comes to his mindset and how he sees himself stepping into this role. He said he wants to prove that he's a quarterback that can change our organization. He said he's going to make it better and that he feels like he's ready to come in and start right away. So that was really encouraging and refreshing to hear, especially after we saw how the Derek Carr situation panned out. And he also said that his expectation is to go out there and play at the highest level he can. He said you saw it from Bo Nix and Jaden Daniels last year, so why not him? So it sounds like Shough is ready to hit the field right away and let it rip, which is really exciting to hear from a fan's perspective.
Yeah, I love the energy Tyler Shough has brought to this team. I mean, I don't have the quotes in front of me, but on the St. Brown podcast, some of the funniest things I've ever heard a quarterback say, and it was so unprofessional, but it was amazing, and it just felt like so New Orleans Saints. So already he's off the field, he's done great, but in practice he's done great. In press conferences he's done great. Going back to the salary and the contract itself, as you kind of talked about with the bonuses, that could also be just the Saints doing the cap gymnastics because it is the minimum base salary. So just doing the same thing that they always do with the contracts. But yeah, I think it was just really important to get this contract done before training camp because as we all know, this quarterback competition is unbelievably close. And if the contract wasn't done, then Spencer Rattler would have gotten some leeway and would have gone ahead because Tyler Shough just wouldn't have been able to be on the field. So I think both parties wanted to get this deal done. And I think Shough had a little bit of, can't think of the word, but a little bit of negotiation power when negotiating with the Saints. Leverage, there you go. Leverage when negotiating with the Saints because of all the contracts the second-round picks were getting. As we all know with the second-round picks, it took a while for these players to get signed because of this guaranteed money. And the floodgates opened this past week where second-round picks were just getting signed by the hour because teams just wanted them to be there for practice. And Tyler Shough and his representatives probably saw all the contracts around him and was like, give us the guaranteed money. And they had the leverage, and that's kind of what happened.
Every year it's the same thing. Teams are always worried that the second round picks won't sign, and you kind of know that they will sign in most circumstances. But it's still so refreshing to have them see it pen to paper, see that they're on the team, see that they'll be on the field. It's nice knowing that Tyler Shough will be there. We're going to have a great competition on our hands, and it'll sure make training camp very interesting.
And I want to go back to one thing that Nick said, where just because we signed Shough and he's getting all this money means he's a starter. No, but one thing is, the Saints want to know who the starter is, really. They want to figure out who's their best guy going into the future. And getting Shough on the field and helping yourself identify who your better player is it Rattler, is it Shough, is it none of these guys? You need them both on the field to be able to see that. If you don't have Shough on the field, and you won't be able to get to see that in front of you, and or it takes longer, and development wise, just a few weeks or whatever, however long it could have gone in, could be real detrimental to his chance to start and just development in general. So yeah, I definitely don't think anything with how he signed matters in sense of if he's the starter. I will say, though, it was almost always seen as, I think everyone here agreed, we know Shough is going to get that guaranteed. The NFL world themselves basically is like, Shough is where it at least ends. Everybody in front of Shough's probably going to get the guaranteed. They just needed to wait for the first team to fold, which I can't even remember who the first team was. But after that, Shough was seen as the X factor in these negotiations for all these teams, and it turned out to be true because right after Shough, nobody else got him, and then Shough got even a little different of a sequencing for his contract as well.
Yeah, and I actually think going back to everything we were talking about with him being the quote-unquote starter because of this contract, I actually think it means more about the future. Because giving him the guarantees kind of shows that the team might believe in, okay, let this guy really learn, even though he's older, let him learn, and we're not going to give up after him in 1 year. Obviously, if things go horribly and it is Tyler Shough's fault a lot of the time and he is the starter, that's a different story. But I think the Saints are kind of hinting, okay, we have some leeway with Shough, and we're not going to say, okay, carry the team on offense, and if you don't, we're going to move on. If that would have been the case, this guarantee contract wouldn't have mattered, and they wouldn't have even cared if he sat out of practice. So I think there is something about the future with him with the team.
I think it'd be rare to see another Josh Rosen situation. I mean, that's one of the most wild.
Don't bring up that name.
Whatever. Josh Rosen was one and done, and then the Cardinals had the first overall pick the next year, and that's when they got Kyler Murray. The Saints would have to be that bad to have the first overall pick to consider moving on from Shough, and it would have to. A lot of it would be on Shough. But I mean, let me just be the devil's advocate for a lot of people in here. I don't think Arch Manning is going to be in this next draft. I think Arch Manning is going to be another draft down. So maybe if Tyler Shough is bad 2 years in a row, maybe the Arch Manning dream lives on again, and that's another situation. But I don't think that's the case with it. Shough seems promising. He's got a lot of the tools that you'd want to see in your quarterback. I hate saying I see a lot of Josh Allen in him because that is really big comparison. But it's in the sense of the size, the ability to run, and he's got a lot of arm talent, and that's what Josh Allen is. And if Shough can be a quarter of what Josh Allen is for the Saints, or show some of that promise that Josh Allen did, because Josh Allen started his career very bumpy as well. I was a believer from the beginning though, but he started his career very bumpy, and that's kind of the comparison I see in it. And they took their time with Josh Allen. Maybe it takes a little bit of time. Now, again, as you said, Caleb, 25 years old, going to be 26 during his rookie year. It's kind of hard to give a guy time then, but with the draft situation, the contract, I do think it gives a little bit of leverage to Shough because he's going to be getting all of that guaranteed for the next 4 years.
Yeah, since the idea of Shough being drafted by the Saints was brought up in media or anything, I've always thought of it as a 2-year plan. This isn't a 1-year plan. This isn't a 3-year plan. This is a 2-year plan because of how good the 2027 quarterback class is probably going to be. If Tyler Shough is fine, worse than fine next season, okay. Go with him in 2026, see how it is. If it's a failure, wow, you have a great class to pick from. Because although I think Arch Manning the Manning family might not want him to go to the Saints just because there's already been a Manning on the Saints, I do think there's a lot of good choices, and I think that's kind of the plan the team has. And if it hits, you have your quarterback. Everything's great. If you miss, you go again with a new quarterback, and honestly, probably a better prospect coming out of college. So,
yeah, I actually
couldn't agree more with that.
Go ahead, Drew.
Go, all you.
Yeah, I
actually
agree
more with that.
Agree
you said it.
It's my favorite situation.
You go.
I do agree with you, Caleb, when it comes to the 2-year trial, because that's kind of what we've been saying all along with Kellen Moore's first stint as well. It's a 34-game season, essentially. You can't judge it all off of the first year. We all know that it's not going to be pretty this year, and if it is, it's not going to be a championship contending team. They have a lot of work to do, and that's apparent. So and also going back to Arch Manning, he was very, very talkative on bringing the New Orleans culture to Texas football this weekend. So that's also very encouraging to hear on a potential Arch Manning Saints. I don't even know what you'd call it. It would be beautiful. That's what it would be.
I know we're getting way ahead of ourselves for this, but I'm not even looking at Arch Manning. I think y'all know my Twitter. I post about Lenore Sellers so much. That's my guy. I honestly think he might be a better prospect in the long run. But that's just my saying on that. Way too early, but my shot out there.
We'll get into that mid-season. We'll get into that mid-season.
Oh yeah,
Also,
it's gonna be. That's gonna be a conversation.
Any off chance Tyler Shough watches this, I would like to apologize for the fact that we turned your contract into looking at the Saints' next quarterback. It's just hypotheticals we're going on. We're just talking football, but at the end of the day, Tyler Shough is the Saints quarterback. He got his contract fully guaranteed, the last of the second round picks after. I'm excited to watch him play. I'm excited for what that contract means for the Saints. And going forward, we have a rookie quarterback who possibly starts is something that I'm excited to watch because it at least makes the games more entertaining because every week you don't know what you're going to get out of him probably. He's a rookie. He could start the week, he can start 0-5 and play terrible, and then week 6 something clicks. We've seen it with Bryce Young. We've seen it with all these young quarterbacks. So I'm more than thrilled to watch every game this season because one of these games could just be a 4-touchdown, 400-yard game that nobody saw coming.
Hey, going into the Ian Book game, I think everyone was excited, and then it went bad. So I think any young quarterback is wonderful for us.
Was that Thursday or Monday night?
It was a Thursday against the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, Dolphins with the
Dolphins,
COVID roster. The COVID roster was destroyed.
All right, but to the done with the Shough contracts because this is still a big week for Saints football. Speaking of Tyler Shough getting his contract and being ready for training camp starts on Wednesday, which this will go up on a Tuesday. So training camp starts tomorrow. That's huge. We finally get football. We'll get pads on soon. We'll watch real football. Not real hitting, but close enough. We'll get it's enough to feed the itch, and we're ready to watch football. And with that being said, there's a lot of things to look out for. Tyler Shough, wide receiver room, defensive backs, everything, running back room. So what are you guys looking forwards to in training camp?
Yeah, as we head into training camp, we all know that there's a lot of uncertainty behind Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, and Brandon Cooks. So I'm going to be looking at the wide receiver room in training camp. And 3 guys in particular I'm going to be watching is second-year wide routes, Bub Means and Mason Tipton, along with Kevin Austin Jr. We've talked a lot on this podcast about the expectations for Bub Means, considering his work ethic and relationships with the young quarterback, specifically Spencer Rattler, who he connected with really well at the end of last season before suffering that ankle injury. But I want to turn the attention to Mason Tipton and Kevin Austin Jr. for a second. Last training camp, Mason Tipton was as consistent of a playmaker as they come, just torching almost everybody that he went up against, which ultimately led the former undrafted free agent to the 53-man roster, which was unexpected. And while he was not able to get under his feet during his rookie season, I do expect a significant jump in production for Tipton in year 2, having a full offseason under his belt. And in Austin Jr.'s case, he recorded 11 receptions on 21 targets for 151 yards, 10 first downs, and 2 contested catches last season, while also throwing his body on the line to block. He just always seems to be in the right place at the right time. And at 6'2", I think he deserves that shot to be that over-the-middle contested catch guy for the Saints. And like I said, his blocking ability should be really appealing to Kellen Moore. So I expect a strong camp out of the former UFL standout as well. So I'm definitely going to be watching those guys. And like I said, we all know what Bub Means is capable of. We all know his work ethic. We know how much he loves being on the football field. That's another guy I think could be given that shot for that over-the-middle big body wide receiver at 6'2". There's only 4 receivers on this roster at 6'2". That's Cedric Wilson, Bub Means, Donovan Peoples-Jones, and Kevin Austin Jr. So we'll see who comes out with that role.
Yeah, when Bub Means played last year, it was great. And as you kind of said, he was the perfect security blanket for a young QB in Spencer Rattler. And hopefully, if Tyler Shough starts, it could be the same. If Bub Means hits as a player, this wide receiver core is a lot better because He is now, as you said, that contested catch threat in this offense, and he's going to be a pretty consistent wide receiver that could help the young QB. If this podcast was on, if we had this podcast last year, I would talk about Mason Tipton every single week. He was my guy in training camp. I had full belief in him, but I didn't want him to play right away. And that's the issue that happened is he got way too involved with the offense, way too fast. And as all Saints fans, media members, and everything else saw in the Chiefs-Saints game, he was relied upon way too much. And he came up short. That was an issue, and a lot of people soured on him after that. I still think he has so much potential. And in blocking game, he was pretty decent. He was never like getting destroyed on blocks. So he's going to be a consistent wide receiver. And if he just stays healthy, stays available, and performs in these preseason games, he can make the roster. Obviously, this wide receiver team or wide receiver core is a little flooded right now. And there's a lot of players and a lot of people we don't know where they're going to end up in the 53-man roster cuts. But if I could see Mason Tipton making a big impact in practice and in preseason.
Yeah, and he was actually given a lot of credit from former Saints undrafted free agent Lance Moore on the Saints Squad Show podcast. He believes that he will have another great camp and have a breakout season, and I cannot agree more.
Yeah, and one thing with the wide receiver room too is there's two veterans, Donovan Peoples-Jones and Cedric Wilson, that the Saints have signed that I think can get a bigger role going into it as well, just because from the veteran presence, the Saints are still very young in wide receiver room. We're talking about Rashid Shaheed, Chris Olave. Both guys are 25. I think actually Rashid Shaheed's a little bit older, but same draft class, 3 years of experience. Mason Tipton, John, Kevin Austin. These guys are all young. And Cedric Wilson, Donovan Peoples-Jones, specifically Donovan Peoples-Jones because Cedric Wilson had his chance last year and didn't really come up big. Donovan Peoples-Jones, for me, seems like a signing that's going under the radar. Because right now, if Bub Means, another young guy, isn't the guy to make his presence over the middle of the field, it's going to have to be Donovan Peoples-Jones. Because outside of him, who else is it going to be? All of our 5'10 wide receivers that has injury problems or such like this. We need somebody to have a bigger body that could be that presence. And we talked a little bit about Donovan Peoples-Jones, but he's going to have to be that if Bub Means isn't either healthy enough to play, because he also had an injury last year, or if he's not what we hope him to be.
And even looking at this wide receiver, you go.
I completely agree when it comes to Donovan Peoples-Jones maybe having a bigger role in this offense. The thing with him and Kevin Austin Jr. being 6'2", they can both stretch the field as well. Kevin Austin Jr. ran a 4.37 40-yard dash at the combine. Donovan Peoples-Jones is known for being able to stretch the field during his time in Cleveland. And look, Cedric Wilson, I don't think he was used properly last season. In 2021, under Kellen Moore's offense in the slot, he was amazing. He had the best season of his career. If they can just put him in the slot, which is where we thought he would end up at the beginning of last season, then maybe it can pan out. And look, maybe that them reuniting is all that he needed to rejuvenate his career.
Yeah, another aspect I think we're not looking at with this wide receiver core is health. Because last season or last training camp, I remember every single day I had to write a new article about how someone had a hamstring injury in this wide receiver core. The injuries piled up very quickly. And although I think the practice is going to be a lot better, the training staff is going to be better, the health or the medical staff is going to be a lot better, wide receiver injuries are kind of something you have to expect is going to happen. So looking at every single wide receiver on this roster, they're going to have chances to make their name in practice and in preseason and even have a chance during the season. So I think really any spot besides like one or two, because Olave, Shaheed, and then Brandon Cooks somewhere in there also, they're guaranteed, but everyone else is kind of up for grabs. So it's going to be very interesting to watch.
And I want to say one thing too, is because there's a lot that we hope for with these young wide receivers. And part of that goes into it is both this offensive line. Can they protect our quarterback long enough? And then can that quarterback make those throws? That's one thing is these guys can underperform a lot in 2025, and it'll have a big effect on the wide receivers. Their numbers will drop significantly. We're going to talk about it a little bit later with Chris Olave's contract, but these are all things that are going to go into play when it comes to How will these wide receivers perform? Is this offensive line has to be stable and good. This quarterbacks have to make these throws, and that's another thing is who's going to make themselves the most available for these quarterbacks to quickly get the ball, because that's going to be a part of this offense. It's going to be getting the ball out quick and making themselves as open and make the throw as easy as possible. But skipping on from the wide receivers now, Caleb, I know you had someone that you wanted to talk to for this.
Yeah, I wanted to focus on the Saints' new signing, Jonathan Bullard. He was just signed, I think, when this podcast goes up 2 days ago. Defensive lineman, formerly Minnesota Vikings. He took a visit with the Saints earlier in the offseason. There's kind of some limbo with that, but now he's signed. What he brings to this defense is run defense. He stops the run. Last year with PFF, he was ranked the 45th run defender in the league, and that is when he was a rotational defensive lineman. He was not a starter. So he had an impact everywhere. The other thing is he has experience in the 3-4 defense, which Brandon Staley runs. He can be that 3-4 defensive end, or in a 4-3, he could be that edge rusher. Now, he's not going to get to the quarterback. It's not going to happen. In his career, he only has 6.5 sacks. So that's not what you have to expect from him. But with how bad the Saints' run defense was last year, and how much the Saints have valued improving the run defense this offseason, I think Bullard can make a massive impact throughout practice, and if he plays in the preseason. But looking at it also, he should make this roster because of this run defense. I've talked about it many times, how I don't feel good about the depth of this defensive line room at all. I think there's a lot of spots open, and I think there's a lot of names that they might not make the impact you want on this defense. I think with just how good Jonathan Bullard is against the run, he automatically has a much better chance of making this roster over some other people. And I think this creates the 53-man roster cut, or creates an issue with the 53-man roster cuts, because already there was a confusion there of who's going to get cut. But now with this addition, it's going to get crazy. And that's going to be something I'm going to look at all offseason.
Yeah, and you brought up his fit in a 3-4. It's also significant to say that he was on Brandon Staley's defense when he was drafted with the Chicago Bears. So there's a connection there, and that's happened quite a few times now with the guys that they're bringing in, because the Saints need to get the personnel in here. I've said it multiple times that I believe in Carl Granderson and Chase Young in this defense, just for the simple fact of their size. These guys are tall, lengthy guys that they can maybe fit in on the edge here instead of as 3-4 linebackers, depending on where you want to move them at. But the Saints need to get the personnel in here as soon as possible. And they brought in a few guys, specifically ones that have worked with Brandon Staley. And this is just another one to add to the books there.
And once again, the Saints are putting an emphasis on the run defense. You've seen it all season long. Devon Godchaux, Vernon Braw, and Danny Stutzman. They just keep on adding, and I don't blame them. I mean, 5.2 yards per carry last season, second worst in the league. That's just something that needed to be addressed, and I'm happy that they're doing it.
Even Jonas Sanker, who was added through the draft, he was great against the run. So, as you mentioned, they've been focusing on that, and I think they're going into the Saints are going into this season with, you're not going to beat us against the run. If you're going to beat us, it's going to be against the pass. But we trust our DBs, which I don't, but maybe they do. We trust our DBs and pass rush to beat you, but you're not going to beat us against the run. And that's it.
I mean, Kellen Moore knows what a good run game can do. Last year, he ran the ball down the throat of every team he faced. So I think it's wise that the Saints are trying to stop that. It's trending back to a more run-heavy league. So everyone you can up there, and hope your defensive backs can withstand the passing attack.
And actually looking at the defensive line a little bit more, I think adding more run defenders is going to take some pressure off of Brian Brzee and maybe just kind of allow him to really be that pass rusher, because I've talked about it before. We talked about it with the Bo Davis conversation last week. I have a lot of trust that they're going to develop Brian Brzee well, but maybe if there's worries about his run defense, that he's not going to be able to put it all together, getting all the run defenders around him and just let him cook one-on-one and go to the quarterback. That might just be how it works, and doesn't sound like the worst plan. I don't know how it would work on the field, but might be a plan.
And beefing up the run defense is significant, again, back to the 3-4 thing, because a 3-4 is usually more viable to a rushing attack. And with the switching to the 3-4, they seem to be trying to cover their own weakness by getting these guys in who really only stop the run. Like you said, he's only got 6.5 sacks in his career, and it's a 9-year career. He's played 9 years in the NFL, 6.5 sacks. That is a run defender. And it's significant that they're bringing in guys that only stop the run for the most part into their 3-4 defense because, again, it's significant. It's the weakness of a 3-4, and they're trying to cover their weakness with it, and it's a pretty big move there. But going into it now, Drew, I know you have a lot that you want to talk about, especially with our linebackers.
I've already harped on the linebackers room before on this podcast, but I'm excited to watch it because just who is going to step up outside of Demario Davis and Pete Werner? You have this room full of guys. Some have been on the team a couple of years, some are rookies, some are UDFAs, a whole bunch of people. None of them are highly invested in, but who is going to step up? You moved on from Anthony Orji. He played a pretty good amount these past couple of years in wake of either Pete Werner or Demario Davis. So you got DeMarco Jackson, Jalen Ford, Tyreen Powell, Nefi Sewell, Isaiah Stallbird, Danny Stutzman. I think we're going to see something from Danny Stutzman. The Saints invested a 4th-round pick in him. I really like his film. He needs to improve some in the pass game. But just as a run defender, as we just talked about, I think he'll be a great fit. Then I'm also looking for Jalen Ford. I didn't really get to see a lot of him last year. He's going to be a 2nd-year, 5th-round pick out of Texas. But he didn't really get an opportunity to play last year. So I'm excited to see what he brings to the table and if he can make an impact.
Yeah, and I like that you mentioned both Danny Stutzman and Jalen Ford because Jalen Ford obviously a guy that hasn't been talked about a lot. I know we've actually put a lot of effort into bringing him up because he may be a significant because this is the 2nd draft in a row that the Saints have used the top half of a day 3 pick to go ahead and add to their linebacker room. Exactly how you're saying, we don't know who we have under the aging Demario Davis and the sometimes inconsistent P. Werner, but behind that, you don't really have much depth. Switching to a 3-4, it's probably going to be pretty significant. There's going to be times you're going to have a lot of these guys out here. And again, I loved how you said not a lot invested in any of these guys either. The draft picks, yeah, that's a lot, but other than that, you don't have a lot of connection to them here. Danny Stutzman is probably the most invested in here. He's drafted by this regime and part of higher round 4 pick is a significant pick. So Danny Stutzman is a guy that automatically it's like, well, he's got to see his snaps. He's drafted. The coaching staff obviously wanted him, went out and got him, and a lot invested with that 4th-round pick. But outside of that, I agree. I don't know who's stepping up. I don't know who the Saints are looking at.
Yeah, and I think it's worth noting that DeMarco Jackson, Nefi Sewell, and Jalen Ford have each had their troubles staying healthy. And Danny Stutzman spent time with the ones throughout minicamp. So that could definitely be somebody who you see on the field more than you'd expect from the start. And I also think I really like Tyreen Powell out of Rutgers. Really long arms, fast pass rusher. If he could really improve his coverage a little bit, then I think that he could be great for the linebacker room. But like you said, Drew, Nefi Sewell, he's another guy that I'm really high on if he could just stay on the field. He just always seems to be making plays, whether it be on special teams or on the defensive side of the football. So that's another guy that I'm really hoping could stay healthy out there.
Kind of piggyback off that. I loved what Nefi Sewell was doing before he got out with a torn ACL. I loved his production, and I thought he had a ton of potential. So excited to see him back on the field. And one more guy I wanted to kind of mention was Isaiah Stallbird. He was a UDFA out of South Dakota State last year. And I think he's a former safety, converted to linebacker. He's fast. I think he's got a ton of potential. He didn't really I think he was a practice squad player last year. But I'm excited to see his development and see what he can do this year.
Yes.
Yeah, and
Go ahead.
Going back to kind of what Kyle was talking about with Jalen Ford, I mean, as you said, we mention him throughout the podcast so many times because we all kind of have a little bit of a belief that he could be something, but just we haven't seen that yet. And that's definitely going to be something that I want to see throughout training camp because also behind Demario, as Nick kind of talked about, behind Demario Davis and Pete Werner, it's kind of some question marks and kind of young. And if those two of Jalen Ford and Danny Stutzman can be your next two, I'd be very happy with that. Now, as kind of what Drew talks about, Danny Stutzman needs to get better in pass coverage. He's a run defender. If Jonathan Bullard's a amazing run defender and bad pass rusher, Danny Stutzman is an amazing run defender, but bad in pass coverage. Sometimes he doesn't know what to do. That's a learning curve. And if he learns that, he could be an amazing linebacker. The potential's there. With Jalen Ford, he could still be a great linebacker and be the next players. I think also looking at Demario Davis's age is starting to become very important now. And although that might not come up in training camp and that might be more quiet, it's still something to consider. And injuries kind of goes with that. And if more injuries kind of pop up, that's a little bit of a worry. Speaking of injuries, Pete Werner deals with injuries a lot. And that's going to be a massive worry no matter what practice, no matter what game. That's going to be something to watch. If Pete Werner can stay healthy all training camp, I'm going to be very happy. I care less about what he does on the field, but I care more about if he's on the field. But if those two stay healthy, of Demario Davis and Pete Werner, and they stay strong, consistent, this linebacker core I feel great about, and I feel great about the future if Jalen Ford and Dene Stutzman show a lot of potential.
Yeah, and similarly to Mason Tipton, Isaiah Stallbird was lighting up training camp last season. He, just like Mason Tipton, did suffer an injury that took him out the majority of the finishing parts of training camp and let him only see 17 snaps in the first game of the preseason, but they kept him around. So they must be really high on Stallbird. He had signed a future reserve deal this offseason to come back. So that's a guy that the Saints must have a really, really high radar for him. They must think that he's got the juice. And look, I'm all for it. He looks like you said, Drew, converted safety, 6'1", 215. He's got speed. That's a guy I've got my eye on for sure.
And I want to talk about Tyrone Powell a little bit because it's one guy that, Nick, you brought up. It's a guy that I watched a lot of, and I think he could find his spot on the roster as a special teams. He is also an insanely athletic guy, a very good tackler, long arms. He just from his athleticism and his length and things like that, it's a way that he can find a way on this roster in special teams. He played quite a bit of special teams at Rutgers as a starter. So definitely a guy that could find his way because he already has the experience as a special teamer, and as a starter he played that, even as a starter, played that role in college. But going into the next part is who I've actually wanted to keep my eye out for in training camp, and kind of did the same technique that you guys did. You guys saw guys who did really well last year in training camp and didn't get to play in the season. Well, my guy actually is Chase Young. He was lighting up training camp last year. I'm talking about 3 sack days versus Trevor Penning, and they're surprised, but 3 sack days, real big performances that made us sit there and wonder what is wrong with our offensive line. And our offensive line wasn't that great, but it wasn't as bad as Chase Young made our offensive line seen in training camp. He's a guy that the Saints bet on in last offseason, gave him a $12 million prove-it deal, which $12 million is quite a big of a prove-it deal, but it was a 1-year deal. Come prove to us that you deserve to be on this roster. He proved to him that he deserved to be on the roster and was rewarded with a 3-year, $51 million contract. Now, this is significant because Chase Young had 5.5 sacks for the Saints last season. Yes, he was top 10 in hurries and everything like that. And that is, again, that is a significant thing to be top 10. And he was getting to the quarterback, but he never finished. He could never finish and take down the quarterback, and he only led to 5.5 sacks. He's somebody who now the Saints have committed to quite a big investment in, and he has to take a step up now, and he has to get to the quarterback and finish. So I hope to see if he could follow with what he did last training camp, and do what he did then again this training camp. I want to see the headlines that Chase Young is dominating again, because I have trust in our offensive line, our tackles now. I like our guys there. So if Chase Young is doing his thing and dominating then again, it lets me know that, okay, Chase Young's still going to finish in the top 10 in hurries, and if he can finally finish and take down these quarterbacks, just add 5 more sacks last year, or 5 more almost sacks that we all watched. He was this close every time, and he would have been top defensive edge in the league.
Yeah, like you said, 17 total games played, 66 pressures, and 7 sacks. I really just want to see those sack numbers go up a bit more. What's actually interesting is on 20 coverage snaps, Chase Young had a 90.0 PFF grade. And we know from minicamp that Carl Granderson and Chase Young were seeing snaps in coverage. So that's something that I'm also keeping an eye on.
Yeah,
really
kind of
good
going
pull
off
with PFF. Yeah.
Kind of going off of what Nick just said about the coverage, I'm actually kind of going to be a little bit more negative looking at Chase Young. I don't really care about what he does as a pass rusher in practice this season. Last season was great. All the headlines were amazing, and I felt good going into the season, and I was okay with what he did during the season. But as Nick said, that coverage grade is great, but I need to see it now in game consistently, because if he adopts this outside linebacker role, he's going to be putting coverage at times. And I also want to see how his pass rush changes as an outside linebacker in when there's 5 pass rushers and they're on the outside and they're pass rushing. I just want to see how that changes, because this might be the role he's needed. And he could have 16 sacks because he is just flying to the quarterback. Or this could be a learning curve, and when they use a 4-3 defense, that's where he plays better. So that's going to be something to kind of look at throughout practice, see if there's any struggles with that. But pass coverage itself, that's going to be a main focus that we're going to be able to see in pass coverage in practice, and see if there's headlines of Chase Young got burnt on this play, Chase Young got burnt on this play, or Chase Young broke up a pass. Either is great, because now we know what to expect going in the season.
I mean, you took the words out of my mouth. The PFF grade, it's a great indicator of what they can do, but I just want to see it on the field. No one watched 2024 tape and went, wow, Chase Young, he did great at that coverage play. The PFF grade may show that, but you just want to see it on the field with your own eyes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And when looking at his career, actually, he has 2 seasons with the Redskins at the time with an over 80 overall coverage grade. 2020 as a rookie had 35 snaps in coverage with 82.3 overall grade. And in 2022 had it was only 2 snaps, but it was still an 85.3 coverage grade. So he's definitely got that ability. But like you said, having it at a consistent rate is it's going to be something to keep an eye on.
And one of the things
Real quick.
You go ahead, because I'm going off topic off that, so you go ahead.
Real quick, you have the PFF stats in front of you?
Yeah.
Nick? Can you see the snaps by position and see if he played outside linebacker his rookie year? Because that's something I definitely want to see, because I think his sack numbers were good his rookie year, and then obviously he tore his ACL
sacks as a rookie.
Great for a rookie. Love that for a rookie.
It was 7.5 sacks
if he played
as a rookie and 5.5 last year, I believe.
Because if he played
saw 238 snaps as a right outside linebacker and 134 as a left outside linebacker on 834 total defensive snaps. So he saw quite a bit of time there.
That's not bad. Okay, cool. So going back to what I was saying, that's some clarification of, okay, he has some history with that, and he had a great year when he was in that role. So maybe dedicating that more time, because he would have more majority of his snaps in that outside linebacker role if the Saints truly do go to that main 3-4 defense. Maybe this is the thing that can truly unlock Chase Young, because since being drafted number 2 overall, we have waited, the whole NFL world has waited for Chase Young to be unlocked, because in college, that was one of the most dominant football players in the world ever. It was scary to watch. Had to be double teamed all plays, and it didn't matter. And since being drafted number 2, we've been waiting on that. So maybe this could be the thing that unlocks him.
And
I think
briefly.
Sorry, one more thing on Chase Young.
You go ahead. Go ahead.
I think that was one of the more intriguing things of bringing over Brandon Staley in that 3-4 defense. Having Chase Young have the opportunity to be that stand-up edge rusher, that's something we haven't seen from him yet. And looking at his capabilities and his best attributes, it really could be what, like you said, Caleb, it could be what was destined all along that we just haven't known yet.
Yeah, and you guys actually ended up making your way into what I was going to say. Because, yes, I was going to bring up the 3-4 and how the fact that the 3-4 allows for these more exotic blitzes, these different looks to confuse the quarterback, confuse protection. And, yeah, I mean, you said it a little bit earlier, Caleb. A Chase Young running free is a scary look, and there's a possibility that we get some of that with these way that I'm hoping Brandon Staley draws up these defenses. It's hard to block against a 3-4. You have so many moving parts, so many things. Identifying the mic becomes harder and things like these. So I'm excited to see Chase Young, because I think there's going to be more chances than there was last year for him to full on get to the quarterback and get a one-on-one with the quarterback.
If I see a stunt from the defensive line, I might shed a tear, because I don't think I've seen that in Dennis Allen's defense, and it's going to be beautiful to watch. But yeah, also what's been besides injuries, the one criticism of Chase Young's play, although I don't believe it, it's the run defense.
Well, it's been a lack of effort as for the specific
lack of effort on the run defense. This might allow him, if they do go to more of a 3-4 defense majority, not really worry about that as much. Kind of just, I can't think of his name. I'll go away from that. But just kind of run and get the quarterback. Why can't I think? Harold Perkins, see quarterback run, go. One of the most athletic players you could see. No pass rush, but could just run. That's what Chase Young can do also, although he has a pass rush. He could be so dangerous this year. It's going to be so fun to watch. But I just need him to also be good in coverage, and that's the issue with the outside linebacker role. So it's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, and I'm going to wrap up the talks because we talked about Chase Young and we talked about all these guys. But training camp is coming, and we will finally get an answer to some of this coming into this week. See how they play these guys, because that's another big question. We don't even know how they want to play these guys. Training camp's going to start Wednesday, so tomorrow, and we'll finally get an answer to a lot of these questions. To the next part, it's trivia. All right, it took a little bit, but I ended up getting it last year. You know, it's a deeper poll than I think Nick understands. That was a little bit of a deeper poll. It was a special teams guy.
This one is not as deep. You guys should know this one.
I sure hope so.
Worse, because now it's embarrassing.
The pressure's on.
But let's go ahead and get into it and see who we got.
Write it down.
All right. So I'm going to start with the teams. Nothing else yet. Started off his career with the Cleveland Browns. Went to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Went to the Jaguars. Went to the Falcons. And then finished his career with the Saints.
Ooh. Oh, no.
Journey, man. Sounds like defense. All right, just go ahead and throw your shoulder teams one more time.
Yeah, we can't say it. Yeah.
Browns, Bucks, Jaguars, Falcons, Saints.
Falcons, Saints. That's what I'm just look at. A guy that went from the Falcons and finished his career as a
This is
Saint.
bad. My roommate was a Browns fan, so I should know this.
Sounds like defense to me, 100%.
Browns, Bucks.
Cornerback, probably. Oh. How long? Okay, I might need years, because how long was he on the Falcons?
2 games.
Oh.
2 games, 2012.
2 games in 2012.
I have to think of NFL. I think of Madden theme teams. That's how I'm gonna think of it.
Let me give you the years real quick.
Yeah.
Maybe these will help.
2012.
Started his career with the Browns in 2004. Went to the Buccaneers in 2007 to 2008. Was with the Jags in 2009 to 2011. Was with the Falcons in 2012 and was with the Saints from 2013 to 2015.
Okay.
But this is a guy.
No.
See, you said you'd do something more recently. Last time.
I didn't do recent, but I did more probable.
See, expect you to know, with him being that late in his career on the Saints, that's like has to be someone so obvious.
Significant.
He started a couple games at a very significant position, so.
This is making me sick.
No.
I'm gonna be so mad. This is the one that's gonna be making me really. And I think we said defense. Are we assuming the defense?
I'm assuming defense.
Okay.
Still on defense.
Oh.
But
Still on defense?
I was
Okay.
assuming defense
I think
because I
that's
thought this
right.
was a newer player.
See, Bucks, Falcons, Saints. That's noticeable. Like that's something I feel like we should all know.
Position, you guys will have it.
I don't
Probably
know.
not, but
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Go ahead and give us the position.
if it's linebacker, I'm gonna be.
I give you the position, and I'm going to give you how his career ended. He was a quarterback, and he ended his career signing with the Cowboys practice squad and got beat out by Cooper Rush.
Supposed to know them, man? Chase.
No.
It's not Chase? I couldn't even remember his Chase Daniels. I was thinking Chase
For
Daniels.
the Chargers.
The one before.
Oh.
Oh, this is so bad. This is so
Backup
bad.
quarterback pull. All
I know.
right.
He was drafted by the Browns.
Started when Drew Brees got hurt, if that helps.
Oh no! I was at that game. Oh no!
He was at the game?
I was at the game because it was against the Panthers in Carolina.
It was the Panthers. There you go. You're on to something. You're on to
Oh, yeah, you talked about
It was
this
the Josh
before.
Norman pick. It was raining. It was raining, and I was
You're
sad
on to
because it was the Josh
something.
Norman pick. Oh God!
Give you one more hint.
Not Garrett Grayson.
His brother is a coach now in the NFL.
Stop! I see him
Not a
in my
head coach.
head.
but a
I
coach.
see him in my.
For
I'm
Caleb to
so
get it.
mad.
At the game. I'm trying to. You said a head coach?
I think it's.
Do you have a college?
Not a head coach.
It's been blocked in my head.
What a college? Drew was asking for college.
What's
You know,
college?
College.
Is it
His
McCown?
college- This is gonna give it away. It was McCown. It was Luke McCown.
Oh, Luke, my God.
There you go.
Because Josh McCown's.
Not gonna remember
Yep.
Luke McCown, man.
I've been scarred.
Come on, I was 11.
Oh my God.
11, 12, 13.
Oh my
Come
God,
on.
I was at the game. I was so sad because I was like, oh, Drew Brees.
I feel like if I would have said Louisiana Tech, Drew would have got it.
I think Shough I would have, yeah.
Yeah, no. Come on, man. I was 11.
It's my first win.
I'm younger than
I'm gonna
you.
take it.
Got it.
I was at the game.
You know what? Next
There
time,
you go,
next
Caleb.
time I take over
See,
trivia, I'm
it's
pulling
been
out of your,
redeeming.
I'm pulling out of your bag next time
Pull
I
it.
take over trivia.
Do it.
I need to see,
I want
need
it.
to
I
see you
want
on the other side pulling a 1997 third string.
There's
right
no
away.
way.
No, okay. All right. Let's go to the final topic. Let me pull up the exact numbers before I get into it. Garrett Wilson has signed a 4-year, $130 million contract with the New York Jets. Wilson was the 10th overall pick in the 2022 draft. Behind him was wide receiver Chris Olave. We're expecting an Olave extension probably after this season. The Saints did pick up his 5th-year option, though. So it's not a big alert immediately. They need to get it done after this season. And this gives us a basis of what that deal could look like. Wilson and Olave had similar career paths so far. Both haven't had consistency at quarterback. Both started their careers with 1,000-yard seasons. The problem is Olave has now spent the last season injured, and a history of head injuries makes that a big concern for the rest of his career. What do you guys want to say about this contract? Do you have any predictions on what an Olave contract may look like?
Yeah, you kind of said it for me. The wide receiver ones now obviously don't come at a cheap price, as you've seen with that $90 million guaranteed. You also mentioned that, like Wilson, Olave did start his career with 2 1,000-yard seasons, was well on pace to join Wilson for a third before undergoing those head injuries. Though it is worth noting that Chris Olave has been building a connection with these Saints young quarterbacks, and I expect him to have a huge season this year. He's also looked to put on some weight, which he's been looking to do for some time now. So I expect him to come out hungrier than ever with a chance to explode in Kellen Moore's offense. But another thing you mentioned, Kyle, is Garrett Wilson has yet to miss a game for the New York Jets, and Chris Olave has yet to play a full season in the NFL. So that is also something you have to look at. But like I said, I expect Olave to come out hungrier than ever. I would assume that the deal would be relatively close, if not more, just based on how the market shifts over time. But yeah, I expect it to be done. I don't have any doubt in my mind that the Saints will try to get it done. Obviously, there's no telling if they do, but I do have no doubt in my mind that the Saints want to bring Chris Olave back for the long term.
Yeah, I think when talking about Chris Olave in general, you always have to bring up injuries, which sucks. But that's really important in this conversation. And I don't have a number projected for Chris Olave's contract, but I do think it's going to be less than Garrett Wilson's, just because of Garrett Wilson has been too productive with even worse quarterback play, more productive with even worse quarterback play, and didn't miss games. So I think his contract was perfect. I think Chris Olave is going to get less of a contract, or if it's a similar contract, there's going to be some accelerators or clauses with injury. I can see that happening also. And it honestly all depends on this next season. Chris Olave plays all games, maybe misses one for like a random hamstring here and there, but like no concussions, that's a whole nother story. Because if there's one more concussion, the fear factor of giving him a contract that large is high. So that's going to be a main focus this season. Also, I'm going to be super negative here. But if injuries happen, and if the Saints really aren't in a place to keep winning, quarterback plays really bad, defense just is not what you wanted, doesn't look like it's going to be fixed in a year or even 2. A trade could be talked about. I would hate it. I would hate everything about it. But depending on how the season goes, that could be an option. I think any contract conversation really just goes into health and what's going to happen this season. Because unlike with Garrett Wilson, he doesn't need to prove much this season to get that contract. Chris Olave, it's a little bit different. And the team has to prove something.
Must be healthy. 4 concussions already in his NFL career. 1 each of the first 2 seasons, 2 last year. Just stay healthy and you'll get a bag. I think the ballpark will be similar to Garrett Wilson. He just needs to stay on the field. He's got the talent. He's got the fan interest. He's got everything. Just please don't get injured.
And I alluded to this a little bit earlier with Olave, is there's a lot of factors here that I don't think are in his control. So when coming into this contract, do the Saints consider that, yes, Chris Olave is going to have a rookie or second-year quarterback throwing to him. This offensive line, as much as we have loved to say we know what they are, we don't exactly know what they are yet. Trevor Penning is going to be taking snaps at left guard. You have a rookie on the left tackle. So we still don't fully know if this offensive line can keep your rookie quarterback up. And like I said earlier, we don't know if this rookie quarterback or your second-year quarterback will be the guy making these throws. With that being said, I think a healthy season from Olave, if he's not at 1,000 yards, if he's near it, I still think he breaks Wilson's contract, just for the sense of that's the way the market moves. And Garrett Wilson is a direct person to point at when it comes for Olave's negotiating of, I just want $1 million more than him. That's usually how it goes. Just give me $1 million more than him. It's an up factor. Let me up him a little bit. These were teammates at Ohio State. It's usually a game like that. Draft pick right after him. So I believe if Olave does get a contract from the Saints and he doesn't, unless he drops 1,800 yards this season, a 1,000-yard season, 1,200-yard season, he'll get a contract that's kind of slightly upping Garrett Wilson's.
Yeah, and going back to what Caleb said, I think if there is one more concussion scare, I think we're looking at maybe whether he continues to play football rather than if he does return to the Saints. But also revisiting the trade that Caleb said, the Pittsburgh Steelers and the New England Patriots had heavy interest in Chris Olave this offseason. I would not be surprised if that does come around. I hadn't even thought of it while we were mentioning it, but that is also something that it could definitely be on the horizon if, like you said, the Saints are still a little bit more behind than they hope, and Chris Olave excels, goes past his injuries, has a great season, wants a little more money than the Saints can give at the moment. It's definitely possible.
Yeah, also, I really like Chris Olave with Kellen Moore, and that's going to be a different factor also because I think Chris Olave has not been utilized well throughout his career with the Saints. He is truly one of the best route runners in the league. He is also amazing, just go down the field and throw it to him. But for some reason, it's just that just doesn't happen, and for some reason, the Saints haven't just said, you're wide receiver 1. You are the guy. We're going to utilize you heavily in this offense. It's been more like, okay, we're going to utilize you more, a little bit more than Rashid Shaheed, but Rashid Shaheed kind of want to be. And I think they just need to commit to Chris Olave, commit to his strengths, and I think he could be amazing this year. But once again, health.
Yep.
It changes everything, no matter what.
And I kind of want to rebuff some things you said because you're like, the Saints haven't really, put Olave in that role where Olave, and Olave is a clear wide receiver 1 going into the season, don't get me wrong, but what has Olave 100% done to show us that he can catch the ball in the middle of the field? It's a two-way factor here where Olave's got to be someone who can go in the middle of the field, catch it, and not get a concussion when he does so.
That is true, but I do feel like once the Saints and Michael Thomas split ways, the Saints are kind of trying to force Chris Olave to be Michael Thomas, and that was just never going to work. They had him trying to be that contested catch over the middle guy. Putting on weight is great for Olave, but not for that reason. You also saw they weren't really using him in the red zone early on in his career. Only had a couple of touchdowns throughout the first couple of weeks of his, maybe even longer throughout his rookie season. Only had he has 10 career touchdowns. Only 4 in his rookie year and 5 in his second year. So he's not being utilized nearly enough as he should be, especially not when it comes to what he does best, and that's stretching the field, getting first downs, doing what Rashid Shaheed has done. And now you have 3 guys like that on your roster with Brandon Cooks in the mix as well. It's all up to the Saints to figure out how they use these guys and if they do it the right way. And I have all faith in Kellen Moore right now.
And going back to kind of Kyle's point, they don't need to utilize Chris Olave over the middle of the field in that contested catch to be the number 1 wide receiver. They just need to allow him to route up any corner he's against and create situations where he can just cook whoever is in front of him. Because when's the last time, at least for myself, you've watched a game, and I'm talking to everyone, you've watched a game and you just seen Chris Olave absolutely destroy someone in a route where it wasn't in like the red zone, where it was a setup play and it was a touchdown? I haven't seen it as much from way compared to his career in Ohio State, where he was just running. He doesn't need to be the fastest. He just needs to route people up. And I haven't seen that as much with the Saints, and I just don't think they're putting him in that role.
I
Yeah, and it's,
want to rebuff it again one more time, because this. Look, I'm a huge Chris Olave fan, but this is your future wide receiver one. This is a guy that we are mentioning. We are paying 30 mil plus, 35 mil plus next year. You can't be the. I know we're talking about route running. You can't be the one trick pony and just be a deep threat. And a big factor of being a good route runner is you have to be a threat other than just a deep. Right? If you could, he fakes the in route, and you don't follow him in because Chris Olave doesn't catch the ball in the middle of the field, that's a problem. Chris Olave does have to have a middle of the field presence to be the wide receiver we need him to be. He needs to bulk up so he can survive those hits, or take a page out of Tyler Lockett's book, which I've been vouching very hard, that just drop down after you catch that ball in the middle of the field if you need to. The Saints need Chris Olave in the middle of the field because right now you don't have that, and I don't need him to be your main middle of the field guy. But Chris Olave needs to have a presence in the middle of the field to be the best receiver he could be, because to be the best route runner you need to be. This is the NFL. I don't want to say it, but you talk about his route running ability. It's amazing. He's a great route runner. But comparing his route running ability from college is a little different against college quarterbacks and these NFL quarterbacks. Chris Olave lining up against Pat Surtain, I'm not sure if he's making him look 3 different ways before he's downfield running open. Chris Olave is a great route runner, but not having that middle of the field presence can hurt that in a sense as well. He's got the speed to be a deep threat, and he has the ability to route a guy up and go into the middle of the field. He also has the run after catch ability. That's something that's a little rowdy. Get the ball to Olave out fast and let him run afterwards. Olave can't be a one-trick pony and just be a deep threat.
yeah, and you could also look at where he's been placed. I'm not too sure. I'd have to do a little bit more deep digging to see where he was most productive, but he spent a lot of time in the slot. Maybe not as much as he should. That's why I'm saying I might need to see where he performs better, but he spent 39% of the time in the slot in 2023 and 33% in 2022. Had 28% already before he went down with those injuries in 2024. So whether, like I said, they need to find a spot where he's most successful. Like Caleb said, he's better as an outside stretch the field receiver, and that's kind of where I see him best. Maybe that's also why we didn't see much from Cedric Wilson last year as well, because they weren't putting the right guys in the slot. That's why I have a lot of faith in Kellen Moore and how he decides to realign this offense, and that's also something we should be looking out for in training camp.
Yeah, like I said, I love Chris Olave, and I hope he's the next guy to do it. But I think he's still got some stuff to prove himself before we really do start talking about $33 million a year guy. Because we've seen him get the 1,000 yards, but we've also seen, at least in his second season, I can't think of years right now, 2023, Derek Carr forced him the ball a lot. That was also a thing that was a problem. So he got quite a big amount of targets there. I just want to see Chris Olave. Kind of throw out a little comparison. He won't be this good at it, but he does need to be able to catch the ball and run with it. Michael Thomas, slant man, whatever we like to call it. That roll, that automatic first down that we saw, we need a Saints wide receiver to be able to get us a first down like that. That is as a wide receiver, your main role is first down. We need to get first downs. We need to keep this drive going. You need to be someone who can get us to the next part of the field, next part of the field, next part of the field, until it's the big play stretch the field. Olave can stretch the field. Right now, the Saints need him to take on possibly a bigger role than we should be asking him for. He needs to be able to stretch the field, but he needs to be able to take the ball and run with it. That's another thing. He needs catch and run. We haven't had catch run in years. Since Michael Thomas has been off the roster, we haven't had catch and run. And now Thomas wasn't like this dude that's juking people out, but Michael Thomas would take a slant 30 yards. It's actually majestic how he did it. We need Olave to do something similar. Just that quick route, get into the middle of the field and take the ball up.
That is a great point because since the departure of Michael Thomas, Jawan Johnson has been clearly the Saints' best yards after the catch player, and you would definitely expect that to be your number one wide receiver.
All right, but I think that wraps it up. Does anybody else have anything they want to say about Olave, potential contract, or ideas on how he might do next season? All right. Well, with that being said, we appreciate everybody tuning in. We hope you guys see us next time. Sorry that this episode went out on a Tuesday instead of a Monday. Time conflicts, as always. 4 people is kind of hard to get ready into one bunch. But with that being said, we hope you guys enjoyed the episode and tune in next week.